This video is to show you how to make this cute little jelly bean shark. So this sweet little shark is a completely no-sew project. So it works very, very quickly. It is great for craft markets and for last minute gifts. And it's also great for stash busting because you need less than 15 meters of the main color of yarn to create one. For today's example, I'm going to be using the Toucan dragon fruit yarns, but I've been using a combination of different Hobbii yarns to make these jelly bean sea creatures. So these ones are made with the baby Snuggle yarn, also by Hobbii. And I'm also using the Honey Bunny line of yarn underneath here for the belly. So all of three of those lines of yarn, the baby Snuggle, Honey Bunny, and Toucan, can all be used interchangeably within the projects. So again, today I'm using Honey Bunny in white, and I'm using the Toucan Sprinkle in dragon fruit. In addition, we'll need a crochet hook. I'm using an H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter. I have my 10 millimeter safety eyes. You can always embroider your eyes on after, and I will provide a video link below to show you how. And I have my scissors, my stitch markers, sewing needle, and a bit of stuffing. So if you'd like to follow along with a written version of the pattern, there will be a free version available on my blog. And there's also a paid version available on my Etsy and Ravelry shops. So I'll provide those links below in the description for you as well. So let's get started. So the shark is created from the bottom up. So we're going to start with the white color or whatever color you want to use for the belly. And I'm going to begin with a magic ring. If you're not comfortable doing magic rings, especially with this chenille style yarn, go ahead and chain 2 and then place all the stitches for round 1 in your second chain from the hook. Okay, and for round 1, we want to place 6 single crochet stitches into our ring. I usually do this round fairly loose, which I find helps to be able to close the ring, and then my other rounds I'll do a little bit tighter. So again, 6 stitches into your ring, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you want to close that up. And add a stitch marker. Round 2 is going to be an increase round, so we're going to go from having 6 stitches up to 12. And to do that, we want to place 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch around. So you're going to increase in each stitch around. Again, 2 single crochets go into each stitch, and you'll repeat that 6 times in total. And round 3 will also be an increase round. And this time we're going to go from 12 stitches up to 18. And to do that, we want to place 1 single crochet in the next stitch and then 2 or increase in the stitch after that. And repeat that 6 times around. So single crochet in the next one and then place 2 in the stitch after that or increase. And repeat 6 times in total. Okay, on to round 4. For round 4, we're going to have another increase round, except this time we're not going to increase uniformly around. We're going to place our increases on either side of our circle to make our shark a little bit longer. So we're going to begin with single crocheting in the next 4 stitches. Then we'll do 3 increased stitches, single crochet in 6 stitches, 3 increased stitches, and then single crochet in the last 2. So we'll go from having 18 stitches up to 24. It's just that the increases will be on either end of the circle. So single crochet in the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to increase in each of the next 3. So you're going to place 2 single crochets in each of those stitches. Then we're going to single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. And if I'm going too fast, go ahead and pause it to get caught up. Then we're going to do 3 increases over the next 3 stitches. So 2 single crochets in each of those stitches. And then we're going to single crochet in each of the last 2 stitches. So you should have 24 stitches right now. And what I forgot to mention is on the last pull through of this last stitch, we want to change to our main color. So I'm going to change to my dragon fruit color to finish off this round. And for right now, I'm going to leave my white yarn attached until I come back around. Okay, on to round 5. So round 5, we're just going to single crochet in each stitch. Now, a little trick I like to use to help avoid having that obvious jog in the color change is to slip stitch in the back loop of the next stitch. So we're going to focus a lot on the front loop and back loop of the stitches coming up here. So each stitch has sort of a V at the top. So there's the front loop and the back loop. So that's what I'm talking about throughout this pattern. To change colors here, we're going to do a slip stitch in the back loop first. And so that will kind of eliminate the jog a little bit. And then you want to place your first single crochet of the round in the same stitch, but in both parts of the stitch. So the front loop and the back loop, you're going under that V like you normally would. Like that. Okay, so you want to single crochet in each of the stitches for this round. So 24 stitches in total. We've got 1 done, so 23 more. Okay, so that was round 5. And for round 6, this is where we're going to add in the fins. So this is what I'm talking about with the front loop and back loop. We're going to put our fins on the front loop so that in the round after, we can use the back loop to close it up behind. And what you'll notice if you're following the written pattern is that there are brackets. So it'll say FLO, which is front loop only, and then there'll be brackets with a bunch of instructions. Those instructions are all meant to be worked in that front loop, the same front loop. So we're going to start with our fin here in this front loop. This is that slip stitch that I did to begin the last round. Just forget that it's there. Just ignore it completely because you don't want to end up with an extra stitch. So go in the front loop of the next single crochet and you want to do a slip stitch, then chain 4, and then we're making sort of a little point on the end of the fin. So to do that, we want to slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. So what I do is I sort of tighten up that last chain a bit, and then I find the back loop of the second chain. So this is 1, this is 2. So I want to find the back loop there. It may be tricky to see with this yarn. Find the back loop and slip stitch into that. So I keep it nice and tight because I just want to have a little bit of a point there on the fin. And then you're going to double crochet, and again that's in this same front loop here. Double crochet, then we're going to chain 2 and slip stitch again in that same front loop. So this has created a fin. There's that point there that we made. There's our fin, and our fin's going to come forward, and then when we do our next round, we're going to work in the back loop here to close it in. Okay, so now that we've completed our first fin, we want to single crochet in each of the next 12 stitches. Okay, so before we move on to our next fin, we want to go and mark the space between round our stitch 6 and 7 of the stitches we just created, and that'll help us to sort of locate the top center for our dorsal fin later. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can put your stitch marker like in between here, or you can put it around both of those stitches. This just sort of indicates the front center of the shark so that we can count up here later to add our dorsal fin. So working in the front loop, we're going to create our second fin. So to do that, we want to start with our slip stitch again, and then we want to chain 2, double crochet. So again, that's also in the same front loop. Then you're going to chain 2 and sort of pulled on that second chain a little bit, or on that first chain, and then find the back loop and slip stitch into that. So you're slip stitching into the second chain from the hook. I choose the back loop because then it doesn't like bubble out. It makes a tighter sort of point. And then to finish our fin, you want to chain 2 and then slip stitch again into that same front loop. So these fins are a little bit different from one another because that allows our little point to be towards the back of the shark. So once you've completed that fin, you're going to single crochet in the last 10 stitches of the round. There we go. So we want to go ahead and mark the 5th and 6th stitch of the last 10 to help us with our tail placement. So this first one, this is helping us with sort of the center for our dorsal fin. This back here will help us for our tail. So again, you want the 5th and 6th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when we are working our tail, we're going to work under both stitches. So I'm going to place my stitch marker right under both of those stitches. There we go. And again, this is just sort of prepping for when we place our fins and tail on later. On to round 7. Round 7, we're going to single crochet all the way around, but when we reach these fins, we're going to single crochet in the back loop as opposed to the regular part of the stitch. And before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and cut this yarn and tie it off. You may have done this already. So, and I just tie the 2 colors together, the end and the beginning, because it'll all be hidden inside anyways. All right, so round 7. Again, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. So we will be starting with our fin. So we're going to go back here and find our back loop. So it can be a little bit tricky to find sometimes, but it is hanging out back here. There it is. And single crochet. And then you're going to single crochet in the next 12 stitches. One thing to note is that you don't want to mix up this slip stitch here from your fin with your actual next stitch. So you can see this here is from the fin, because this is our fin part here. This is our front loop, kind of, there's a bit of a hole. This is your next stitch. So you can always mark those as you go around until you're a little bit more used to using this method. But you're single crocheting in each of these 12 stitches. And then we're going to slip stitch in the back loop. So see how there's sort of a horizontal bar back here? That's what we're looking for. Single crochet. And then we're going to single crochet in the last 10 stitches. Okay, so on to rounds 8 and 9. Rounds 8 and 9 I'm going to do off camera because you're just going to single crochet in each stitch around. So for both rounds 8 and 9, single crochet in each stitch around, and I'll meet you back here for the beginning of round 10. So here I am at the end of round 9. I still have 24 stitches. And before we go to round 10, we're going to add in our safety eyes. So even if you aren't using safety eyes, I recommend marking with stitch markers where the safety eyes would go, just to give you an idea of where you want to embroider them later. So our eyes are going to be placed on round 6 of the head, approximately 6 stitches apart. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we want right on this. And so because we've already found the center, we want to go 3 stitches out from each side of that stitch marker. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and check to make sure that they are even. And then go ahead and secure those in whatever way you like to secure your safety eyes. Okay, there we go. So, and if you've lost track of which is the front and which is the back, the points that you made for the fins, they go towards the tail at the back. Okay, so on to round 10. Round 10 is a decrease round. So we're gonna go from having 24 stitches down to 18. And to do that, we want to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to do a single crochet decrease, and we'll repeat that 6 times around. So again, single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then do a single crochet decrease. And I'm doing an invisible decrease, which means I'm taking the front loops and crocheting them together. So go up through each of the next 2 front loops, and then finish up my single crochet as normal. So that's an invisible decrease. I highly recommend using them. If you want a more detailed explanation, then I do have videos, beginner videos, to show that technique. Okay, and then on to round 11. You can start stuffing now if you want. I'm going to wait a little bit longer to start stuffing. But if you're using a thinner yarn, you may want to start earlier. So for round 11, we're going to go from having 18 stitches down to 12. And to do that, we want to place 1 single crochet in our next stitch, and then do a single crochet decrease in the stitch after that. And we'll repeat that 6 times around. So again, we're going from 18 stitches down to 12. Okay, and then before we start round 6, I am going to add some stuffing in here. So you're going to make sure you get some stuffing in towards the nose. And then you also want to make sure you get under the lip that you're creating here as you're closing the animal down. Okay, and then for round 12, we're going to go from having 12 stitches down to 6 stitches. To do that, we're going to do a single crochet decrease 6 times. So this is where it's really important to use that invisible decrease. so that you don't have a lot of holes when you're finished this round. Go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bit more stuffing in here with the end of my hook, just to make sure that I have enough, because remember the stuffing will settle. So you want to overstuff just a little bit more than what you want your final product to feel like. Okay, and then I'm gonna end off here by slip stitching to the next stitch, and I'm gonna leave about 6 to 9 inch tail, and I will use this tail to cinch together those last 6 stitches. So I'm going to do that by working, I'm just going to go up in the front loop. You can go up both though if you prefer. We'll just end this off. And then we're going to move on to the tail and crocheting that on. So now our tail is here. It's marked out with the blue. Our tail isn't, but to help with the positioning of the tail. So again, you want to grab your main color again. And you want to place the shark down on the hard surface. You want the eyes on the right here, the tail on the left. If you're left-handed though, you'll want to place it the opposite way, with the eyes on the left and the tail is going to go on the right. So again, for right-handed, eyes on the right, we're going to place our tail on the left here. So we want to attach our yarn to the 2 back center stitches of round 7. So that is just above this stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we marked out this round only because it couldn't shift on us, because that's when we made our fins. So you want to use that as a guide for your back 2, which for me is right above here. So I'm going to place my hook underneath those 2 stitches. Can you see that there's the 2 there? That's where we want to put our yarn. We're going to attach our yarn here, and we're going to work under those 2 stitches. So let's put it this way so you can see again the eyes here. We're turning, and we're going to attach our yarn here under these back 2 stitches from round 7. So you're just up one round from the stitches you marked. This is actually going to be where the center of the tail comes down, and then the rest of it will go here in round 5. So attach with a slip stitch. Don't worry about the stuffing right now. We can throw that back in after. And then we want to we did our slip stitch and we want to chain 5. So this is similar to our fins where there are brackets with a bunch of instructions, and all of those are to be worked in the same stitch. In this case, it's under 2 stitches. So we chained 5. We want to pull on that chain a little bit to tighten it down because we're going to make one of those points again. Do that, and then in the second chain from the hook, and I'm using the back bump, we're going to do a slip stitch. Okay, so that'll create the little point, and then we're going to do a treble or triple crochet, which is yarning over twice, go under those 2 stitches, yarn over, through 2, through 2, and through 2. Then we're going to do a double crochet. Again, it's under the same set of stitches. And then we're going to do a half double crochet here as well. Under the same set. Okay, then in your marked stitch, you're going to do just a slip stitch. So in your marked stitch, you want to place a slip stitch. You're going under 2 stitches again. We're going to continue down working under the 2, and that'll sort of pull in the back and make it less round in shape. So slip stitch. And then under the 2 stitches from round 5, we want to do a half double crochet, double crochet, triple or treble crochet, and then we're going to chain 2 because we have to make our second point here. Tighten that down, working in that back loop of the second chain from the hook. You want to do a slip stitch. Just try to make that a little bit tighter. There we go. And then you're going to end by chaining 3 and slip stitching again in that same stitch. Then we're going to end this off and we'll weave in our ends. There we go. We can go ahead and we can put that stuffing back in out of the way. Okay, and then we're going to finish up by creating our dorsal fin. So this time we're using this stitch marker. It's just going to show us the center here of our shark. And so we want to place the shark down the same way we did for the tail. So you've got your eyes towards the right hand side, your tail on the left. And if you're left-handed, you want to flip them around this way. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to locate the center stitch of round 11. So again, you can count from down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's the second last round, like round 12 was where we cinched everything together. So it's right here. And in case you're newer at this, I'm counting from where the circle is here at the bottom, and each sort of ridge is your next round. So that's how I'm counting up to find where round 11 is. And then for round 11, you're gonna attach with a slip stitch here your yarn. And very similar to the tail, we're going to be working like under the stitch. Okay, so there's my slip stitch. And then under that same stitch, we're going to do a single crochet, half double crochet, and a double crochet. And then we're going to chain 2, and just like we did on the fins and the tail, we're going to create that point. So pull it down a little bit, slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, and I'm working into the back bump. Okay, and then you want to end by chaining 2. And then you're gonna slip stitch to the next round, so that like the center of the top here. So round 12. Okay, and then you're gonna finish with your slip stitch there, just pulling that through. So you need not too much yarn here. There we go. And if you find that your fin is too tall, you can do less chains here and not do the double crochet there. But I like having a big top fin on mine. So I'm just going to go ahead and weave in those ends again. And I weave them in 2 different directions, just so that it's harder for the ends to pull out, especially if you're using like a velvety yarn that's really slippery. It just helps your ends to not pop out of your work. Okay, there we go. So there is our shark. Now, if you want to learn how to do the eye detail here of your shark, I will link a video below to show you how to do that. Other than that, we're all done. So thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you liked this video, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.